Hey, what is going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video to talk about this new news that has come out today about the new potential Denver Broncos stadium. It was announced by the mayor in Denver. It was announced by the team. Pretty much, it seems like it appears at least that we're not going to have really any drama with the Broncos stadium compared to what we have seen from the Cleveland Browns and the Chicago Bears. Which, by the way, I do plan on doing a stadium talk future video about the Bears whole situation, but as well at some point. But I was kind of intrigued about this because I didn't really make a video about the Broncos stadium deal. I mean, it wasn't until I think about last offseason where we really started to hear rumblings about the Broncos stadium. And then it kind of circled over into this offseason. But the Broncos plan to basically build a new stadium in Burham Yard, which is going to be, I guess, a couple of miles away from where the current stadium sits. There is some environmental things that they have to, do in this stadium, according from my research of looking this up. There are some environmental issues within the land, but it has been abandoned for decades. So those are things that they're going to have to, I guess, take out before they build it. Now, the lease for the current stadium is still going on until like 2031, which that's actually a pretty long time for a stadium announcement, for a new stadium announcement. I'm sure they could get out of the lease too, since it seems like everything is all handy dandy right here. So in looking at this, it seems to be a retractable roof. And it's going to be a natural turf, which I don't like that. I'd rather them use real grass. And I do not like, them using, not an outdoor stadium, because I think outdoor stadium's very important for home field advantage. I believe the Broncos have the altitude advantage as well. I don't know if that has any significance. I don't know if that has any significance to it being indoors, that would ruin the advantage of the altitude, because I know Broncos have that advantage. Not that really, mostly the altitude issue is more of the kicking advantage, because when you kick in Denver, whether you're the opposing team or you're the Broncos kicker, a lot of those kicks from like the late 90s and the early 2000s that you've seen. Now we freaking see kickers kicking 60-yard field goals on any stadium now, but before we seen those kickers that really couldn't kick 60-yarders back then, but if they did, it was rare. A lot of the times when they did it, it was in Denver, because Denver had the altitude, which allowed the kicks to go further than they would have in any other stadium. So I don't know if that issue will be taken away if you play the games indoors. I've heard different opinions on that, so I'm not 100% sure if that would take anything away. That's my whole thing with the retractable roof. Now, with a retractable roof, they could realistically, and again, this is small, but realistically, they could play all the Broncos games outdoor still, because a retractable roof just basically means that you can open or close the ceiling, basically. So you could have the games be played outdoors, or you could have them be closed up. Which the idea here is, with a retractable roof, they could close it up for like concerts, Super Bowls, WrestleManias, whatever they want. They would be able to do all that. And I have always been the opinion is if you really wanted to do that, get out of the football business. Like, I just, look, I don't, when you are building a stadium, you are building it for football. You are not building it for other things. You know, obviously for WrestleManias, you're going to have your outdoor venues for WrestleMania. Um, Now you probably wouldn't be able to do it with the Broncos, but you could also host SummerSlam. That's what I'm realistic. And I seen some news reporter in Colorado that tried to use the argument that, well, the Bills, look what they're doing. That by them doing an outdoor stadium, you're probably never going to get a Super Bowl or something like that. And I'm just thinking, dummy. The Bills were never getting a Super Bowl host with or without a dome, with or without a retractable roof. They were never getting that. And that is a fact. Nobody was going to bring the Super Bowl here in Western New York. Nobody was going to bring WrestleMania in Western New York, okay? Okay? We're lucky if we get a pay-per-view anymore in WWE now with the way the new structure is in WWE, okay? We're lucky if we get a B pay-per-view, okay? Let alone a SummerSlam. Like SummerSlam, we could realistically, like we just seen the Cleveland Browns a couple years ago. They hosted SummerSlam just a couple of years ago, right? Okay, that was outdoors, but it was during the summer, so they didn't have to worry about the snow element in Cleveland. Realistically, the Buffalo Bills could host SummerSlam, right? They could host SummerSlam because during the summertime, there's no snow. So August would be a perfect time for them to host SummerSlam. But guess what? They never have. And they are never in discussions for hosting SummerSlam because the Bills are a small market team. So they know that they're never going to get to host that stuff. They could host things in the summertime. They can host events during the summertime when there is no snow. But we all know that the Bills are not going to be able to host things like that. Now, maybe in Denver it might be different. Maybe in Colorado it's different. They're a much bigger market city compared to Buffalo. Buffalo is a small market team. But again, it is still a risk factor regardless. Saying that they're all confident that they're going to get a WrestleMania. Here and also, it should be pointed out that under TKO's ownership, WrestleMania being hosted in another venue other than Las Vegas apparently might be slim to none because they're hosting it in Las Vegas for a second consecutive year, mainly because it's cheaper to do it there. That's why they're doing it. Okay, so the idea of WrestleMania being in multiple different markets, okay, like it used to be under Vince McMahon, it might not be a thing anymore, unfortunately. Okay, so when I heard that they're seeking for WrestleMania, I'm like, you guys haven't dealt with the new owners apparently of WWE now. When they said that, but getting to the main point here, because there is something else that we have to mention, and that is that the new owner of the Denver Broncos actually does plan to fund it himself. Like the whole thing is being apparently, at least from what we've seen and what has been announced, is it's being privately funded by him. And this is very interesting. This is very interesting because I agree with this. Billionaire overlords should 100% pay for their own goddamn stadium and not be front of the bill by taxpayers. Now, I am still questioning if there's some backhand deal going on that we don't know about because I just feel like this is just way too good to be true that he would actually fork over everything himself without there being something else involved. because that just, to me, just doesn't add up. There has to be some type of backhand deal going on that we don't know about. So that's kind of my thing with the current ownership. Now, do you want my own personal take on this? I personally don't think Mile High Stadium is in bad shape. I don't think, I heard one of the things had said that, oh, it's a 30-year. I think one of their press statements was that, oh, it's a 30-year-old stadium. We need to replace it. And I'm like, the stadium's not that bad. Like, it's not like Washington Stadium where, that stadium is a bad stadium. That stadium is a dump hole. Okay. From what I've seen from the Broncos stadiums, it doesn't look like it's in a bad shape. I don't hear anybody complaining about issues, the piping issues or leaking issues or, stuff that we've heard from the Washington Stadium. And this is from me saying the same thing about Buffalo Stadium, okay? I don't think there was anything wrong with the Bills Stadium when they were discussing about creating a new Bills Stadium, okay, which that's going to be opening next season, okay? I didn't think the Bills needed a new stadium at the time when they did. I think they could have just done renovations to the current existing stadium and be done with it. And that's the same thing I think they could have done with the Broncos. You see it with Green Bay. Kansas City, obviously, they've had a bunch of renovations as well. Now, of course, they might be getting a new stadium now because they don't got their tax break anymore because the voters won't give it to them anymore. So we might see Kansas City get a new stadium soon too, but it's not because they think the stadium's old or outdated like Mile High and a lot of these other owners are thinking. They're doing it just because they're losing money on it. Again, the bottom dollar. So they might be moving to Kansas, which is another thing we're going to have to talk about at some point, too. When I mean Kansas, I mean the actual state of Kansas. There's actually a Kansas City in the state of Kansas. Kansas City are in the Kansas City of Missouri. They're not in the Kansas of Kansas City. The people in Kansas are actually trying to do a proposal to try and get funding for the Kansas City Chiefs to move to the Kansas side of Kansas City. But that might be a while away. So it's not something to really talk about right now. So my whole only reason why I mainly agree with this is only due to the fact that the owner is footing the bill. If the owner wants to build a new stadium and he's going to freaking pay for the entire thing, then I can't really disagree. The only thing I can disagree is I do believe personally it should be an outdoor stadium. But if the owner is going to foot the bill for it, then there's nothing really I can complain about because he's paying for it 100%. If this is taxpayer shit, then no, fuck no. It shouldn't be done this way. But it'll be interesting to see where it goes because obviously it just seems like there's no real hurdles since the government seems to be complacent with what the new owners of the Broncos wants to do. So there's probably not going to be really any issues other than I guess there's some chemicals that are in the deserted area of where they want to make the new stadium, which those are going to have to be kind of, they're going to have to take those out, which that will take a while. So it might be a while before they make it, but they have time because the lease isn't up until 2031. So they do have time to kind of get that stuff out before they start making the new stadium. Yeah, I don't know. I just, like I said, the infrastructure, 90 million to remove all the vandalization and streets, proposed including 50 million in repairs for future replacements. Yeah. So like all the stuff that they have to do. And they also compare to SoFi Stadium, and what they did. So here's it on the article too that I was talking about earlier. The Broncos owners argues that they need a new stadium because the current facility is nearly 30 years old. A point stadium often undergoes a replacement or extensive renovations. The team also cited the evolution of the fan experience and desire to create year-round business with a mixed use of district built around the new stadium. That mixed use distance could include restaurants, stores, hotels, housing, offices, entertainment venues, and dramatic public spaces per team per the team, and that's the end quote. So I disagree with this. 30 years is not that bad if you actually do renovations to it. Which they say this here, but at the same time they contradict themselves in the same article. So I just like I said, extensive renovations have just been fine for Green Bay. You know, it's been fine for a bunch of teams that actually hold the stadiums together. I mean, I know the Bears obviously. They want to get a new stadium, but Soldier Field, I mean, it's not really that bad of a stadium. I mean, I know they had the renovation in 2002 that people don't like there, because they thought it did more harm than it actually did good, even though that was a memorial thing that they were doing for the renovations as well, which they're still paying on, by the way, to this day for. But I mean, the Bears Stadium isn't that bad. I don't think it, from what I've seen, it doesn't seem like it's bad. I mean, it's an old ass stadium, but it's still good. It's not like decrepitating like the Browns Memorial Stadium was. Right? It wasn't decrepitating. It's not decrepitating, and they still have a lease until 2033 on that one. So I don't know. I think, and that's the thing, so by the Broncos owners' logic here, because here's the thing. This is something that's going to be used by other owners now. Like, 30 years is the cap. 30 years is the cap, ladies and gentlemen. We need extensive renovations and stuff like that after that. And I'm like, now you're going to see owners like the Jets and the Giants, for example, because the Giants have been saying for a couple of years, I've read articles on this for a couple of years. The Giants have been basically saying that MetLife Stadium is outdated. The stadium was built in 2010. MetLife Stadium was built in 2010. Okay? That was the year I graduated from high school. Okay? That's when that stadium was put up and debuted. To put it into context, it's only 15 years old. So you're telling me in 15 years, oh yeah, guess what, guys? Fuck, then maybe even in another 5 years at this point, the way they're fucking accelerating shit. If you're going by this, another 15 years from now, you're going to tell me that MetLife is outdated? That stadium, I don't even think that stadium is that bad. I think that's just a bullshit exaggeration because of what everybody else is doing now for stadiums. Okay, because everybody else is doing a Jerry Jones World type stadium, now every fucking owner wants one like that. Okay, that's really what the fact of it is. Okay, there's nothing wrong with MetLife. MetLife is a new stadium. Okay, it is 15 years old. It is not an outdated stadium. Okay, it's only outdated to these bullshitters that fucking want all this glamorous outdoor or dome fucking, Jerry World all year round event stadium. That's what it's outdated for. It's not outdated as a fucking stadium. It's a fucking good stadium. Okay? And I've also heard that the Jets might actually want to build their own stadium, like to get away from the Giants, because the Jets aren't the main leaseholder of that stadium. The Giants are. The Jets actually, I've actually heard that the Jets actually, I've read a couple articles on it. The Jets actually are thinking about moving to actual New York City. Like they might actually move back to New York City and have their own stadium and step away from the Giants and have the Giants stay in MetLife. Now I know their lease is going on for, I think their lease is up within the next couple of years. So there's like talk about the Jets possibly moving to New York City and have their own stadium, which they haven't had since like the early '80s. Like they used to play at Shea Stadium back in the day, away from the Giants before they moved in with the Giants in 1982. The Giants had been there since '78 in Giant Stadium, but ever since then they've been sharing the stadium since '82. Even when they opened up MetLife. So that's something that is going to be, that's what I'm saying though. When I hear this right here, like I am like, are we just now going to be in this whole thing where every NFL team wants a new stadium after every 30 years? Because if that's the fucking case, that's fucking bullshit. Because especially taxpayer dollars, because if taxpayer dollars are involved, because the Broncos owners may be allegedly paying this all themselves, but we know damn well other owners aren't going to do this. So they're going to look at this and be like, oh, well, my stadium's almost 30 years old. I guess I can freaking upgrade now. So if you built the stadium in like the 2010s, they're already going to be like, oh, we want a new stadium now, which is only going to up the prices each time you get a new stadium. So that's my issue here. And again, the Broncos' current stadium, Mile High, it opened in 2001. It replaced the original Mile High Stadium, which was built in 1948. The Broncos started using it in the 1960s, I believe. Well, yeah, right? When the AFL started. Yeah. I don't know who was using it before that because obviously it wasn't originally built for the Broncos since the Broncos didn't exist yet in 1948. I'm sure they were using it for something else. But yeah, I mean, so that's the thing. The city could adopt a master plan. Okay, so this was like the Boldmans, I think. The Boldmans, because yeah, this is what I remember in 2019. This was when Bowman was still around, or maybe this was around right after he passed away. But to my understanding, Bowman, who was the owner beforehand, he had wanted the Broncos to stay in the current stadium with renovations, which was about to be like a $700 million investment. But the new owner obviously has different ideas. So that's another thing that kind of sucks. I kind of prefer that. I would rather them do renovations on the current stadium, which would be a cheaper alternative than building a freaking, whatever this is going to cost. This is easily, especially since it's a retractable roof, this is easily going to be probably $10 billion, I would say. And that's just giving me an estimate because some of these other stadiums were like 2.4. I think the Bills were like 2.4 billion. And that's just giving me a highball estimate because I remember when the estimates for the Bills were coming out. Mind you, this was in Orchard Park. They went with the cheaper option, and that was outdoors. 2.4 billion for the Buffalo Bills outdoor stadium estimate at the time. That was based on it being outdoors and it being in Orchard Park, which is a rural area. The reason why the Pagulas were never going to do it downtown because there were a lot of downtowners that wanted the Buffalo Bills to be in downtown. The reason why they were never going to do it there was because the cost would have been more. An outdoor stadium for the Bills to be in downtown would have been I remember the figures were like about 5 billion just for an outdoor one. And now if you get to the domes, it would have been 2 billion more. If you get to retractable roof downtown, it would have been like $3 billion more. And so that's why they went with Orchard Park again and keeping it in Orchard Park. And the Pagulas wanted it there. Pagula's a local owner. Like, he actually grew up there. He was actually a Buffalonian. So he actually understood, the idea of keeping it where it had always been in Orchard Park and keeping it outdoors. I'm not sure if the new owner, like, legitimately was born in Denver. Like, the Pagulas were raised in Buffalo. Like, they were legitimately born in Buffalo. Like, they understood the area because they lived through the area as kids. So that's the difference. Or at least Pagula was. So they actually understand the area. Where the new owner for the Broncos, I'm not sure if he's lived there his entire life. That's the difference. That's where I don't think there's the miss thing. Now, again, I could be totally wrong about the retractable roof. Maybe the plan is to have all the games be outdoors, even if it is cold out, and they just would have it indoors when, they have concerts playing or something like that. I don't know. I haven't really seen anything to suggest otherwise. But again, at the end of the day, he's fronting his own bill. So that's the only thing I can say. Supposedly, at least that's what we've heard, is there's no evidence to suggest otherwise, at least right now. But hopefully it's not some secret backhand deal and this is legit. Again, we don't know the estimations because since this is privately funded, they don't have to technically reveal this. But if I had to give an estimation, since it's a retractable roof, I think it has to be anywhere from 8 to 10 billion because it's retractable. Retractable is going to be the most expensive, and this isn't in a rural area. This is like Denver. I believe this is in downtown, right, for the Broncos, if I'm not mistaken. So this is going to cost more than doing it in a rural area like, in Buffalo, like in Orchard Park. They're not doing it in actual Buffalo. They're doing it in downtown, or they're doing it in a rural area, which the cost is much cheaper than doing it in downtown. So that's why I knew that was never going to happen. And I still don't know why people in downtown wanted that. Like, it would have been a pain if they had built that in downtown. I'm glad. No, I'm glad that it's outdoors, even though I still think the deal was terrible. For taxpayers. I'm happy that at least it's outdoors. It's an outdoor stadium. Now, supposedly they're going to have like some like thing on the top or whatever where the stands are, where the fans are, that's supposed to prevent like, snow. It will melt the snow the moment like it goes down. I don't know if that's exactly gonna work. If there's like a huge ass blizzard, like we've got in the past couple of years, but still better than nothing, nonetheless. But that's kind of their compliment for that issue. But I don't know. Like, I'm gonna say it's gonna be about 8 to 10 billion for a retractable roof. But again, the outdoor aspect is the only thing I hate about it because I think it should be outdoors. The game should be outdoors. If it's snowing out, like, here's my whole example of this. If it's snowing out in this new stadium, right? It's snowing out. Are they going to close the stadium? That would be my question. Are you going to close the stadium if it's snowing, like, already? If it's already snowing, if it's obviously during a game when it starts snowing, there's nothing they can do about that. If it's already outdoors. But that's my whole question would be, are they going to close the roof if they have something in the forecast that says, oh, it's going to snow? You know what I'm saying? That would be my issue. That would be my issue for that team, is like, oh, you're going to ruin the home field advantage. You're going to ruin the altitude by closing down the stadium, or closing down the roof. Or I'm sorry, closing the roof, or, closing, closing the roof and not having it outdoors, for a game, not for a concert or anything like that. So that would be my only issue. But I mean, the owner's paying for it supposedly, and until I hear otherwise of the contradictory here, that's what I have to go by. Overall, don't really like it, because I don't think the new stadium needs to go down. I think he should just do renovations for that and be done with it. But nonetheless, he's paying it for himself, so that's really all we can say on that. But yeah, guys, let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think. And yeah, make sure to comment, rate. If you like any of my videos, make sure to subscribe, and like, and all that other good stuff. Anyways, I'm out. I am the Ultimate Goku, and I'm out of it. Peace. Peace. Also, make sure, besides my YouTube channel, to follow me on the Twitch, the Instagram. Also, I have the Discord link in the description, where we discuss various topics, including this. And yeah, I'm out. Peace.